Great, so welcome everyone. Really nice to see you all. My name's Akasha Mitra and I'm going to be leading the first half of this evening. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a meditation in the first half of the evening. A little bit, I'll say a little bit, and then we'll have a period of meditation. And then we're going to have a tea break, and then we'll have a talk from Danayutta in the second part of the class. So welcome to you all, and welcome to you online as well. Really nice to have all of you joining us online as well. So we'll start the evening by saluting the shrine. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dhammaya. Namo Dhammaya. Namo Sanghaya. Namo Sanghaya. Namo Namah. Namo Namah. Om. So you can just sit comfortably for... actually, no, don't sit comfortably. Get into meditation posture. No, sit comfortably. No, I'm just doing. So what we're going to do is we'll just sit for a few minutes. So we'll literally, we'll just sit for 5-10 minutes, something like that. Just to kind of arrive. So it's very good. I don't know what sort of day you've had. I've had quite a busy day. So when I got here, my mind felt like I'd had a busy day. So it's kind of good just to get ourselves into the right frame of mind for the evening and just let our minds quieten down a little bit. So we'll just sit for 5-10 minutes, something like that, and I'll lead us through that. So just relaxing into your meditation posture. You can close your eyes if you want to. And just pausing for a moment to begin with. Just pausing and beginning to enter into a space of awareness. And you can do that by just starting to become aware of your body. So starting with noticing physical sensations. And the easiest way to start with that is just noticing points of contact with the cushion or the mat or the chair or whatever you're sitting on. So it's almost like you're just reminding yourself that you have this body and there are sensations. So feeling yourself sitting on the cushion or the chair, feeling the weight of your body. So you're aware of the weight of your body, you're aware of gravity, but without kind of slumping or slouching. Sitting in a posture where you're relaxed, but you're also alert and aware. And then it's always very good just to notice areas where you're holding tension in your body. You can relax your hands, relax your shoulders, relax your stomach, and wherever else you tend to hold tension in your body. It's different for all of us. And then noticing sensations in different parts of your body. Perhaps you can feel sensations in your feet or your hands. I've got a bit of a sensation of warmth in my feet. I've got a bit of tingling in my hands. I can feel sensations in the lower part of my arms. Just noticing sensations in the body and just dwelling in those. It's almost like there's a little dialogue going on in the body where you're just relaxing but being alert, and then remembering to just keep dropping back into sensation. And then becoming aware of your body breathing. So just noticing that your body is expanding and contracting. Taking in air, breathing out air. And then we'll just sit like this in awareness for a few more minutes. Being present to the sensations in the body, present to the experience of the breath. And noticing what your mind is doing. So if you're able to stay present to sensations, just dwelling in that. And if your mind begins to wander, just coming back to the body, coming back to the physical sensations. Okay, you can just sit comfortably for a few minutes. I'm just going to speak for a few minutes and then we'll do a longer period of meditation. So, just out of interest, who is familiar with the well, if you put your hand up if you're not familiar with the mindfulness of breathing practice, or anybody who's completely new. Okay, so it looks like everybody is fairly familiar with that practice. Okay, so I'm just going to say a little bit about what we're doing in that practice, and I know some of you will be more new than others. Who was here for Subhuti's ramble earlier? Okay, a few of you were. Yeah, I wasn't actually here. Well, I joined in online for the first bit of it, and then I was cycling to the centre for the last bit of it. But I was watching, just watching what Subhuti was saying at the start, and talking about this principle that is central to Buddhism of the mind being central. So our experience is basically our mind. There is no experience outside of our mind or our mental states, and that's the sort of primary core teaching of Buddhism, basically. And he was quoting the lines from the Dhammapada, wasn't he? Which is, experiences are preceded by mind, led by mind, and produced by mind. So, if we want to get to know our experience, or we want to be able to work with our experience, which we can do, this is sort of like, probably Subhuti was putting it much more gracefully than this, but the second part of that teaching is that we can work with our mind. So our experience is mediated through our mind, but as human beings we have this self-reflexive consciousness, don't we, which is miraculous, really. We're aware that we're aware, and we can see what our mind's doing, so we can respond to it as it arises, and we can observe it. And in the observation of our mind, we can become more fluent in working with it. So we can see what our mind's doing, and we can make a choice about whether to follow trains of thought, for example, or whether to follow a particular mental patterning. And the more aware we become, the more we're able to do that. But if we want to be able to do that, we need to be familiar with actually observing our mind and getting to know what the habits and what the tendencies of our mind are. And the mindfulness of breathing practice is just a beautiful, beautiful way to do that. It's a very, very sort of transformative practice. So I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday. I was walking around the park with a friend yesterday, and we were sort of talking about our kind of like our meditation biographies in a way. He was telling me about how he first came to the Buddhist Center, and what it was that drew him here, and then how it's been for him since he's been coming along, and things that he's found very easy and things that he's really been struggling with. And one of the things that he was saying to me was that he kind of believed that he couldn't meditate, really. Like, he looked around the room at everybody else meditating, and he had this real desire to meditate and to get to know his mind. And he really loved coming along to the center. But he was convinced that he couldn't meditate, in inverted commas. And he was looking around at everybody else sort of sat in their really lovely meditation posture, probably all smiling, doing the metta bhavana, like radiating love. And he used to feel really grumpy, basically. And it was really interesting because we were having this conversation, and there was a lot of parallels in our experience. And I was saying that I experienced something very similar when I first started coming along. I really struggled with meditation for a long time. But after a while, I realized that the main barrier to what I was doing was actually my attitude towards what I was doing, and it wasn't actually to do with the practice itself. So I think it's really important that ultimately that we know, but in the medium term, maybe we just temporarily, sort of provisionally buy into the fact that it's not true that you can't meditate, basically. Like, every time you spend time with the mind and you observe what it's doing, it will have an effect. We can't always feel that in the practice, but it will have an effect. And cumulatively, that's what enables us to transform our mind. So it's really important that we in a way, it's like what we're doing is that sort of thing of picking a certain attitude and deciding whether to go for it, to go with it or not, is like a sort of microcosm of what we're actually doing in the practice. In the practice, we need to see what's arising and then decide what we do on the basis of that. So it's like a conversation in a sense. And I think this is particularly important with the mindfulness of breathing. It's like if you're spending time with a friend, having a conversation, you don't turn up and, you don't think, okay, this is what I'm going to say to the friend, basically. I'm going to say hello, and then I'm going to say, how are you? And if they say, I'm okay, thanks, I'm going to say, oh, I'm really pleased to hear that. And then they're going to say, how are you? And I'm going to say, oh, well, I've been better, thanks. But it doesn't work like that, does it? And it shouldn't work like that in meditation as well. It's like, okay, you've got this set of techniques. You're going to count after the out breath. You're going to mark the breath before the in breath, and so on. But that's not primarily what you're doing in the practice. Primarily what you're doing is being responsive to whatever comes up. So what is happening breath by breath? Do you notice that you're sleepy? Do you notice that your mind is very, very busy and very active? Do you notice that there's tension in your body? Do you notice that you need to bring more metta into the practice? Is there something going on where you need to adjust your posture? Do you notice that things have been going well in the practice, that you're very concentrated, and then you're starting to droop, or you're starting to get sleepy, or something like that? So it's like this constant sort of dialogue, and what you're looking for is a sort of creative responsiveness. I remember having a conversation with someone a few years ago, and it was on a retreat, and we were talking about their meditation practice, and they said, do you know, I really find that the counting and the mindfulness of breathing, it just completely gets in the way of the practice. Like, I've been doing it this way for like 5 years or something, and I find it's just always a barrier. And as soon as I stop using the counting, it just, things really open up for me. And I was a bit like, well, why have you been doing it? Why do you continue to do it in that way if it's, if you feel that it's a barrier to meditation? It's like you've been given a certain set of techniques, but then those techniques you need to be used in such a way where it's going to assist the fluency of the practice and not sort of inhibit it. And then it's, you're on your own with the practice. It's up to you sort of what you do with it, but you're looking for that sort of creative responsiveness. And I think, this paying of attention that we're doing in the practice, that's the most valuable thing that we can do. It's the most valuable thing that we can do for somebody else is give them our attention. And it's the most valuable thing that we can do for ourselves is pay attention to our own experience and to our own mind. And through that, we can learn a creativity and a kind of responsiveness. Okay, so let's get into our meditation posture. And we're going to do a period of the mindfulness of breathing. And I'll do a bit of a lead into the practice. But just bearing in mind this thing about a sort of responsiveness. So don't get too hung up on the stages of the practice and the technique of the practice. Like, I'm not saying don't do that. Do that. But just make this sort of responsiveness the primary thing that you're bringing into the meditation. Okay. So again, just taking a little bit of time to set up your posture. And really seeing if you can arrive in a posture where it feels like it's really supporting what you're doing in meditation. So if you can find the right posture at the beginning of the practice, it's going to set you up really beautifully for what then follows. And it's worth taking a little bit of time to do that. So again, just beginning by being present to your physical experience. So feeling your shins or your knees on the floor, or the soles of your feet on the floor if you're sat in a chair. Feeling yourself sitting on the cushion. Being aware of your body, just slightly, might be swaying to find your balance. Feeling of gravity pulling your body down. And again, just looking to see if you're holding any tension anywhere in the body. And just letting that go. So you can ask yourself the question right at the start of this meditation. How are you? What is going on? What's the energy like in your body? Is there anything you need to be aware of? Do you need to think about bringing in more energy? Do you need to think about stilling the mind? Whatever you're doing, if you're bringing awareness, if there's that responsiveness, that creativity, then that will be beneficial. And becoming aware of your body breathing. So that means you can feel the breath entering and leaving the body. You can feel your shoulders rising and falling, your chest expanding and contracting. And just sitting with the breathing body for a few minutes before we go into the first stage of the mindfulness of breathing. mindfulness of breathing. So marking after the out-breath in the first stage. So being present to the sensations of the breath and noticing what your mind's doing. Just being aware of what you need to do. So moving into the second stage, if you feel ready to do that. When you feel ready. Being aware of the sensations of the breath and just gently marking before the in-breath. third stage. Just dropping the counting and experiencing sensations of the in-breath, the out-breath. Seeing if there's even a sense of enjoyment, a sense of pleasure just in the act of breathing. So in the final stage, just focusing our awareness on the threshold where the breath enters the body and the nostrils. Maintaining a sense of purpose, a sense of responsiveness. Sense of openness. So we'll just spend the final few minutes of this meditation just sitting in silence, so dropping any technique, not needing to focus our awareness in one place, and just spending a couple of minutes just sitting in awareness, sitting in silence. Okay, so we are going to have a tea break now. So you can go next door and have some tea, and then we'll come back in here for the second half. And for those of you that are with us online, I'm going to stay with you for a bit of your tea break. So yeah, everybody leave, and then I can chat to the online people. No, I didn't, but is the announcement sheet is normally here, isn't it? Do you know when it is?
It's just that Serena's here, and she's never been to a Dharma Night, so she's going to almost Dharma Night.
Okay.
So I didn't realize it was you doing it.
Okay.
I was wondering whether Serena and I could do it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I just assumed that. Yeah, definitely. Right. Okay, great. Thank you. So, I'm actually going to come out in a minute. Yeah. So, online folks, there's been a slight change of plan. So, Danayutta and Serena are going to stay with you for the tea break. So, you'll have the pleasure of their lovely company for the next few minutes. So, I'm going to go and get myself a cup of tea. So, take care of yourselves, and I'll hand you over to Danayutta and Serena. Thank you, Danayutta.
Thanks. Very nice meditation. Actually, I think this is Subhusi's drink.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay. So hi everyone. Serene and I really wanted to do this online tea break in particular because this is Serene's first Dharma Night.
Yeah, hi everyone.
In person, that is. Like, you've been following Dharma Night for the last few weeks online.
Yeah, I have. Hi everyone online. It's cool to actually be here to the online crowd. Usually I'm the one like typing in all the comments that I'm not exactly in London, but now it's kind of surreal to be here.
I don't actually know how to see the chat comments on this.
I think it's... Oops. Oh, it'd be kind of sad if we couldn't see the chat comments.
I know. This is kind of sad.
Is it here? Sorry guys, we're just sort of figuring out how to see your comments actually. But while we're doing that, what kind of tea is everyone having? I just remember I'm being asked this question.
We're just having a go at turning the comments on. I think they're not enabled at the moment.
Ah, right, okay. That's a real shame.
Oh! It's okay. We could chat about other stuff.
Other things.
Yeah.
So I was just quite interested in what Akasha Mitra was saying when he was talking to his friend about their meditation biography. I was just going to ask you, what is your meditation biography?
Okay, that's quite a big question actually. But I think, long story short, I got into meditation through yoga practice, which I know you are familiar with because you teach yoga.
Yeah.
So it was actually very much physical for me at first, and then it turned to longer and longer shavasanas, or what we call like a corpse pose, where we were meant to be still and it's sort of meditative in a way. And after we get out of corpse pose, sometimes we'll be invited to sit and maybe with a bit of intention to have a bit of quiet. So that was actually how I got more and more into the sitting portion of yoga, and then from there I started sitting at the Sydney Buddhist Center. So hi to everyone in Newtown if you're watching. I started sitting there, and I just got into more of the mindfulness of breathing as well as metta. So that's pretty much the bio in short.
Yeah. So from yoga into meditation. Yeah.
What about you? Would you be keen to share?
Yeah, so sort of something similar. basically my first time meditating was actually on a retreat, and I thought it was like a yoga retreat, but it wasn't. It was a meditation retreat.
Yeah, the famous story, the infamous story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. Actually, in terms of like yoga and corpse pose, I actually really, really don't enjoy corpse pose. Yeah, I don't really enjoy lying down still and doing nothing.
Just the chat is enabled now.
Okay.
People may need to refresh their
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So just to let you know, if you're watching online, that the chat's enabled now. But what you might actually need to do is just to refresh your screens, so that if you click the circular arrow on your browser, hopefully that will refresh the chat and enable the chat. So we're gonna do that as well, I think.
Yeah. So tell us what tea you're having. The only thing I came up here to say, actually. Because I feel very connected when I was online to share what sort of tea. I felt like almost like I was here with all of you. So yeah.
Yeah, so tell us what tea you're having, and if you're willing to, be quite interesting to as well to hear your meditation biography. Yeah. So how long have you actually been meditating for?
It's hard to tell really, because I sort of eased myself into it. So there wasn't really like a start point, you know what I mean? Like I think I would say, but really getting seriously into meditation, I would say when I started sitting at the Buddhist center. So that was maybe a couple of, or maybe 4 years ago. Yeah, that was when I was
2018.
Yeah. That was when I did my first Vipassana, and that was when I was like sort of sitting with a group in Triratna actually. So it was quite a good shift. From just meditation as like sort of the thing that you do after yoga, as opposed to like something that you actually set out and intend to do.
Yeah. And did you enjoy meditation?
I suppose I did. If not, I wouldn't be here today. So, I guess in a way, I do.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure if I really enjoyed meditation when I first started meditating. I felt like it was something that I really enjoyed when I was on retreat. But then when I was off retreat, so like trying to meditate in my London life, I'm not sure if I enjoyed it so much. But I felt like it was something that was really, really good for me. Therefore, I did it.
Well, I suppose sometimes it depends on what the aspect of meditation that you enjoy is. Sometimes people just enjoy sort of the stress relief or relaxation. That is inevitably the side effects of practice that comes up, just casual on the side. So I think that was actually the part I enjoyed, and not really the sitting part.
Actual sitting.
But there are, of course, some glimpse of enjoyment I do find, especially earlier in the meditation where one of the cue was actually try to enjoy it. I really enjoy it. I really like it when we're reminded to try to enjoy the moment. Otherwise, it's kind of it's not like meditation. It's a massive chore or something.
It's like doing exercise.
Exactly.
Hey, Liz from Tasmania said hello. Well, hello. Halfway across the world.
It must be morning there. In Tassie. Hi.
I think it's true, isn't it? I think when I first started meditating, it was when I first started taking it really seriously, it was during the financial crisis. So I think I'm not sure if I would have gotten through the financial crisis sort of like more or less intact if I wasn't meditating. It's hard to know, trying to tease out all the different factors, but
meditation definitely is a sort of an anchor that grounds all of us. I'm sure like all of us have experienced sort of just some pretty tough times, especially recently, so it's good it's a good way to get back to your center in a way, to recenter. I mean, there are other ways to do so as well, such as exercising, like running, swimming. But I do think that there's a sort of meditative aspect to these kind of activities. Like, for example, if you're expressing yourself through art or writing, there will be sort of that a bit of like the outlet, or rather like the creative process that brings about like a bit of peace. Yeah.
I'm just going to hold that thought for a moment and just say again that if you're having problems accessing the chat, what you'll need to do is just to refresh your page. So if you're on the browser, just click the circular arrow, or what we did, because we're using an app on the tablet, you might just need to shut the app and then reopen it, and that will refresh the chat. But I just want to come back to this thing of doing something creative, or doing particular things like, I guess, yoga or running, and that they have a meditative element. I think that's really, really true. I think in the tradition, you can access the first dhyana, so the first sort of higher meditative state of consciousness, without actually being in formal sitting meditation. You can actually access the first dhyana through all sorts of different activities. I should really remember when I first realized this, and I was on retreat, and I was going on this long walk with a friend. It wasn't actually that long to start off with, but then as we were walking, we started getting into this conversation, and we really enjoyed the conversation, and we decided to extend our walk. In fact, actually, I wouldn't actually say that this person is a friend. It was just somebody on the retreat. In fact, I was on an ordination training retreat, and she was one of the order members.
Oh, just a warm body. But
yeah. Sort of, I guess, like assessing my readiness for ordination. But yeah, I just enjoyed this conversation so much, and I've actually found myself in the first dhyana at the end of the conversation, or during the conversation. Yes. So Becky's just saying she's having peppermint tea in De Beauvoir.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
Yes, an afternoon lunchtime class. Oh, that's great. That's great.
It's great. I'm having peppermint too, by the way.
Are you?
What are you having?
I'm having peppermint tea with soya milk.
Oh wow, that's an interesting combination.
Yeah, this is like my Monday night special, like peppermint tea with soya milk.
I must try that sometime.
It's good. It's like a minty arrow. Do you know what arrows are?
No, I don't.
It's a particular kind of chocolate that they often have in vending machines.
Oh, okay. It's like a after 8.
No, it's like cheaper than an after 8.
Okay.
It's got like chocolate with air bubbles in.
Oh, I think I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Aero as in AERO.
Air.
Right. Yeah, I think I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Actually, back to the topic of dhyanas. I'm taking the Life with Full Attention course, and part of it is actually also being mindful in our day-to-day activities, such as taking a walk or eating mindfully, and also I know this sounds a bit crass, but using the toilet mindfully and not bringing your phone or other things. I mean, come on, all of us are kind of guilty of that. So actually that really, that course has kind of opened this door of being in a kind of present state without actually being formally seated, because sometimes just to get yourself to the cushion or the mat is almost a huge effort. So that was actually something I found really useful, to just put these little routines into my life.
To cultivate the mind.
Yes,
cultivate
exactly.
attention.
Yeah.
It
doesn't have to be anything too exciting. Like actually.
Yeah, I think actually this is really, really important, because probably for most of us, we don't actually spend much of our time in formal meditation. And if formal meditation is the only time that we're doing mind training, then it will take quite a long time, basically.
Yeah, it took me a long time to reach to this point, and so even with the day-to-day activities, I find it actually a huge challenge to even cultivate that sort of mindfulness, because I'm always trying to multitask. Like when I'm walking, it will be listening to a podcast. If I'm on a commute, it will be reading something. So there was never a moment that I was actually fully present unless I was on a cushion. And I think that if I was present in my daily activities, I could maybe progress a bit more or a bit faster,
Yeah, it's interesting. The main thing I was thinking in that, or trying to reflect on in that particular meditation just now, is that for me, a lot of working with hindrances, working with distraction, working with craving, working with irritation is to do with being willing to sit with quite basic experience. So being willing to not entertain or indulge those distracting fantasies or distracting narratives, just being willing to have a much more simple experience, like to be content, I guess, with more simple experience.
It's also that sort of expectation. I feel that sometimes when we come to the cushion and we expect meditation to be something, but it turns out to be something else entirely. And I think to have these mindful activities in our routines takes the pressure off slightly, for me at least in my experience of the last 3 weeks. So I can't really, no expert, of course.
Oh, well, I hope you really enjoyed the Life at Full Attention course. It's such a good course.
I think we have another one upcoming. I don't know, like what... we should probably say something about upcoming activities.
We will in a moment.
Because that's what we always get in the YouTube when I was listening.
Hey, so Long is saying he's from Clerkenwell, yay! And no tea, how sacrilegious. That is true. He's come to a meditation through a secular app. So if you just rejoined us on the YouTube channel and you're wondering how to access the chat, it wasn't turned on at the start. So what you need to do is just to refresh your browser, and then Serena and I have just invited you to say a little bit about your meditation biographies, which is what Akasha Mitra was mentioning at the start. It'd just be nice to hear how people first started meditating.
So what else should we talk about actually? Do you want to...
the other thing I was quite interested in, besides your meditation biography, is how people relate to their dreams. So this evening the talk is been billed as the Bodhisattva's dream. And I just wondered how people relate to their dreams, whether or not you sort of put any store by interpreting your dreams, or whether you remember your dreams. Sometimes people dream but don't remember. Sometimes people make quite a lot of effort to remember their dreams. So that's what I would be quite interested in hearing about, if you're willing to put that into the chat. What your relationship is to dreams. So that if you dare to say.
Interesting question. I actually dream quite a bit, and I have a dream diary.
Do you?
Yeah.
So, do you fill it in?
Not as much as I as frequent as I like, as frequent as I meditate. So, but I did have an interesting sort of dream where I was sort of putting out a fire. So I think maybe that relates to I don't know how it will relate to real life, but I think sometimes maybe some events in life like stress or anxiety would cause you to dream certain events or people that cause these emotions within you. So putting out fire, perhaps it could be something related to like sort of a stressful event that I'm trying to metaphorically put out a fire. I don't know, like
So you do pay attention to your dreams, basically.
Yeah, very, very much so, just because my dreams are quite vivid and they can be quite mundane as well, actually. Like if I was going to have a meeting, I might dream about the meeting the night before.
Yeah.
And it's like you have to relive it again in real life. So I think it's pretty funny when that happens, actually.
Yeah. So you're sort of like working out your day-to-day life as well.
And especially on retreats, I tend to dream much more vividly. I don't know if you guys have this experience of like having, when you're quieter in a quiet environment, you tend to pay more attention to these kind of things that you wouldn't normally do day to day.
Yeah.
How about you? Do you have
do I have dreams?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And a bit like you, I dream much more vividly on retreat. And I think maybe like I remember my dreams much more on retreat. So I think if I'm on a longer retreat, very often the first meditation in the morning would just be trying to remember my dreams. Yeah, I really relate to what you said about anxiety dreams still. As you were talking, it just reminded me that when I used to teach yoga here at the London Buddhist Center, I used to get like yoga teaching anxiety dreams, which are really bad. Basically, I would have this recurring dream that I was trying to teach yoga in a U-shaped room. I know, basically running from like one end of the U to the other end of the U. And very often in my dreams, I was like trying to teach a yoga class and people would be like paying attention or doing the thing that I asked them to do. Or it would be like just crazy where lots and lots of people kept coming into the yoga room and there'll be like no space to put anyone. Which, if you ever been to the London Buddhist Center in January, you'll understand.
Yeah. I think those people online, we would have seen the crowd because there's sometimes the camera would capture the sheer like amount of people, and this room is actually a lot smaller than I thought it would be, because given the amount of people you see in here sometimes, lots of people say that. Lots of people say like how small the London Buddhist Center is. So you should come in person and check it out for yourself, because it is actually not big at all. Yeah, I have this dream that we should like just knock through the main shrine room into the small shrine room and just like make this one giant shrine room. Let's see if dreams come true. I think it's been looking more to say that's like a megalomaniac fantasy. When I come to power, like, this will be much bigger. Anyway, so do keep on talking about or if you're willing, just sharing in the chat what your relationship to dreams are, because in the second half, that's mainly what we'll be exploring. I think we've got a comment from Woozly Yoga. Hi! I started meditating at age 7. I used to teach it to my dog, Mary, on the village green, and my dreams are very intense and inform my day. Oh, wow, that's really interesting. Yeah. And teaching meditation to a dog, I mean, that is kind of cool. I'm not sure if I got it right. Yeah. I think it looks like that. Yeah, it's quite an unusual thing to do. Teaching animals to meditate. Yeah, I wonder if animals dream. I bet they do. I think they do. I mean, dogs. Yeah, they look so peaceful, and sometimes they would move around in their dreams. Yeah. I know I've just been talking about anxiety dreams, but I also really do find some of my dreams, I think particularly, they can be particularly significant. Sometimes it's like working out my day to day, but sometimes in my dream life, it can tap into, I don't know, maybe particularly strong currents of emotion or, maybe wisdom that I didn't quite realize I had. Anyway, we should really talk about what else is coming up on the London Buddhist Center program. So just in case you missed it, at the moment we're in the middle of a sequence of talks, which start at 5:00 here at the London Buddhist Center. So our president Subhuti is visiting. He usually lives in Wales,
in a quite rural situation. But twice a year he comes to the London Buddhist Center, and Subhuti's been ordained for about 50 years now, and on his twice yearly visits, he often does this thing called rambling. And basically what it is a half-hour meditation at 5 o'clock, and from 5:30 to 6:30 he speaks. And the particular sequence of rambles this time is based around the nature of mind. We're doing this in conjunction with Adhisthana's Nature of Mind program this year. And in case you missed the talk today, you can catch up, and Harvey can put the link to the Nature of Mind talk from earlier today into the chat. And also, Subhuti's going to be continuing his rambles. So today there was rambling around Nature of Mind Part 1, and we mainly looked at the sort of early Buddhist tradition, what the Buddha has to say about mind, cognition, interpretation, and the nature of consciousness that arises based on sense impressions. So that's what Subhuti covered today, and again, you can catch up on the video link. Tomorrow, he's also going to be just continuing that, and then the third installment will be on Wednesday. So yeah, if you wanted to join us live, you can join us tomorrow at 5 o'clock London time, and also on Wednesday. And if not, please do catch up. These are very, very good, informative, wise, and practical talks. And I just really want to encourage you to do that. And it's part of a whole sequence, a whole season of events that are being run from our friends at Adhisthana International Buddhist Center. And it's part of the Nature of Mind program. And I don't know, Harvey, if you could just pop the link to natureofmind.net into the chat as well. Do explore what else is happening in the Nature of Mind program. The other thing I just wanted to encourage all of you to do is just to really, really think about going on retreat. So we're coming up to the spring retreat, and we've got a very beautiful retreat center in Suffolk that's called Vajrasana. And Vajrasana is, I don't know, it's like one of the jewels in the London Buddhist Center crown. It's a purpose-built retreat center, and over the Easter break, you can go on a 9-day retreat. And I always think that the spring retreat, which is over the Easter break, is one of the best retreats to go on, particularly if you work, because of the way the bank holidays are, you only actually need to take 4 days off work to get a 9-day retreat. So it's pretty good.
That sounds like a good deal.
Yeah, it's a good deal. It's a good deal. And these longer retreats, these 9-day retreats, are also it's also like very good value for money, because per night is cheaper than a weekend retreat.
Yeah, and you only have to take the transport there like once.
You get a 9-day retreat rather than doing like four weekend retreats. So anyway, the spring retreats are a really, really good deal. So please do think about going on retreat. Maybe the spring retreat, maybe another retreat. They're just occasions where you can work on your mind much more consistently over time. You put yourselves into really, really good conditions. Hopefully you'll have a deeper experience of yourself. Okay, so I think we're just about to start again. So we're just going to rearrange this particular seat, and then we'll start again in a couple of minutes. Thanks, Irene.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Good. Oh, actually, I don't mind actually just leaving it so I can look at comments. Thanks.
You're sitting here, you're using this stuff.
No, you can sit, yeah. No, you can sit.
Oh,
Yeah, thanks.
yeah, then I ran upstairs.
I thought I'd just keep it so I can have a look at the comments.
I sent it back to you.
Okay. So welcome back, all of you. We're in the middle, in the second week of a series exploring the Sutra of Golden Light and Transforming Self and World, which is Bhante Sangharakshita's commentary on the Sutra of Golden Light. I just really wanted to start off by saying how much I love the Sutra of Golden Light. I really, really enjoy the Sutra of Golden Light as a teaching. I find it very, very beautiful. And Subhuti, who was speaking earlier, has compiled the Sutra of Golden Light for us into a puja. So you can say these verses, you can recite these verses as a devotional ritual. And we do that quite often in our Buddhist movement. Particularly, we do that when we're getting close to ordination. We do them as a sort of like ritual of purification. So I really enjoy the Sutra of Golden Light. And I know this is billed as a talk, but it's, in my mind it's a little bit more like an exploration. We're going to explore this material together. And I'm going to sort of try to, I try to demonstrate how much I like. I'll try to share a little bit of how much I care for this material through our exploration. Anyway, I just wanted to start off with that. So Surya Naga kicked us off last week talking about the Sutra of Golden Light and just sort of sketching out the main events, if you like. And what I'll do is I'll just start pretty much at the start and take us all the way up to the confession verses, which are the heart of the sutra. And the sutra opens with Ruchira Ketu, who is a kind of main protagonist of the sutra, and he is wrestling with a problem. In a certain sort of way, I'm not really that interested what the problem is, except that he's really thinking about it quite hard, and he's reflecting on it in meditation. Yeah, he's really sort of like trying to grapple with this dilemma in his head. And as he enters more and more deeply into meditation, as he reflects more and more deeply, what happens is that his house starts expanding. Yeah, so in his head, his house, or not, sort of like, actually the house starts expanding, and it expands in all directions, and in the cardinal directions, Buddhas appear on very big lotuses. Yeah, so he's meditating, his house starts expanding, and Buddhas appear in the cardinal directions. The world is filled with light, not just any light, but divine light. All the trees turn into jewel trees. There is a rain of great mythical flowers. And this part I really, really like. It says, all beings are cured of afflictions. So let me just read you a little bit of it. Beings whose senses were incomplete become possessed of all their senses, and beings blind from birth sees forms with eyes, and deaf beings hear sounds with ear, and unconscious beings regain their mindfulness, and beings whose minds were distraught were no longer distraught in mind. And naked beings became clothed in robes, and hungry beings became full-bellied, and thirsty beings became thirstless, and disease-afflicted beings became diseaseless, and beings whose bodily organs were defective became possessed of complete organs. On a large scale in the world, there was an appearance of miraculous things. Okay. And then after that, Ruchira Ketu, who is a hero in the story, pays homage to all the Buddhas that have appeared. Yeah. So I don't know what you make of that, but one of the things that I thought is that when we're really concentrated, when we're really absorbed, consciousness, we get a sense that consciousness is vaster and more mysterious than our everyday mind makes it, yeah, or interprets it to be. And that sort of vast consciousness, that sort of big mind, is actually available all the time. It's just that we're much too on the surface of our minds to realize that. We sort of forget. The other thing I thought was that we tend to overprivilege the rational. Yeah, we tend to overprivilege like what we can see, what we can hear, what we can explain, and everything that doesn't quite fit into our sort of preconceived notions of what reality is to be. We sort of discount, yeah. And you may or may not sort of agree with that, but I think we tend to really undervalue imagination. We really undervalue. I don't know, a kind of particular mind sense, because I think most of us tend to be slightly cynical. We sort of think that, oh, well, you know, it's sort of fantasy or it's fancy. I know when I first started meditating, I was in a corporate environment, and my colleagues used to be half interested, but also they would tease me quite a lot. So I would come to the Buddhist Center on a Friday night, and my colleagues would say something like, okay, I hope you really enjoy your levitation. Or, you know, and I would also do it myself, you know. I'd say like, oh yeah, well, it's a little bit woo-woo, you know, slightly embarrassed about it. I think we tend to be quite cynical. But when we really sort of look at our experience, actually, whether or not you, when you use your imagination deeply enough, sort of skillfully enough, actually, it can have a real effect. So it's much easier to sort of give an example than to talk about it in an abstract way. So maybe one example that I thought of recently was, do you remember in the pandemic when we were all sort of isolating, and there was this whole thing where we didn't hug each other, yeah? And I don't know about you, but I ended up with a kind of weird skin hunger. I know I used to teach yoga, but I don't actually like getting that close to people. So sometimes people just assume that, if you teach yoga, you must be like slightly touchy-feely, but I'm not at all. I don't actually really like getting that close to people. But I definitely had a real yearning for it, because that was gone. And then when the Buddhist Center opened up again, we would seat the mat. We'd sort of sell tickets to come into the Buddhist Center, and we'd seat the mat about, at least 1.5 meters apart, if not 2 meters apart. And I remember sitting in the shrine room, and somebody was leading a meditation, and we were doing the Metta Bhavana, and they were leading a meditation, and they said, so Metta Bhavana is a loving kindness practice, and they said something like, and you can bring your good friend to mind, and because it's in your imagination, you can imagine just hugging them. And at that point, it was just such a precious thing to do, sitting in meditation, just imagining hugging your close friend. And suddenly, you could just feel the atmosphere in the room completely change. Those classes were really weird, it's like we had like our face coverings on, we were like really, really far apart. But suddenly, it's like the room just warmed up several degrees. And, instead of just being sort of like quite atomized, one person here, one person here, one person here, it suddenly felt like the whole room was doing the Metta Bhavana together. And it wasn't just us in the room, there was also all our good friends. Yeah? Okay. Yeah, so these things have an effect, even if you can't measure it, even if you can't sort of point to something tangible. Yeah. Yeah. So just going back to Ruchira Ketu's meditation, as he was grappling with his problem, and these four Buddhas appearing in the cardinal directions. The other reflection I had on this episode was that I think very, very often, if I'm not in touch with inspiration, I meditate from quite a poor place. I try to meditate by myself. And actually this thing of me, myself, I transforming my mind and therefore trying to transform the world is actually a very, very poor place to meditate from. We don't have to. Firstly, we can actually bring the entire lineage to mind, yeah? We don't have to kind of try to do it by ourselves. We can actually stand on the whole lineage. And you can do that in meditation. You can bring that consciously to mind. And also, we can meditate with the whole Sangha. And not just that, this whole episode of the blind being cured, the deaf being able to hear, also sort of brings to mind, who are we meditating for? Yeah. So who are we meditating for? So what I thought we could do is we could just try this out. We could, in a moment, don't move yet, but what we could do is we could sit in meditation and just reflect. Who are we meditating with? And who are we meditating for? And see what effect that has. Yeah? Should we give that a go? So, getting into meditation position, closing your eyes. Then once you're settled in your posture, seeing if you can reconnect to the breath. And as you connect to the breath, see if you can breathe a little bit more spaciousness into the body. So breathing more spaciousness into the chest, into the back. Breathing more spaciousness into the skin, into the shape of the body. And just breathing more spaciousness into your whole experience. And then into the spaciousness, see if you can just reflect, who are you meditating with? And you can just bring in the whole lineage of inspiration. So Dharma teachers that you've learned from, perhaps friends who are particularly wise, Bhante Sangharakshita, who founded our movement. Dharma figures, Dharma teachers over the whole of the Buddhist tradition. Archetypal Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. The Buddha's original disciples, and Shakyamuni himself, the Buddha of our time. And as you sit here, you might also want to reflect who you're meditating for. All these countless beings who you want to benefit. All the way from people who are close to you, your friends and your family, people who you know are in need of solace, and because this is our imagination, it can just transcend time and space. can relax any effort you're making. If the lineage of inspiration, of teaching stays, let it stay. If all beings disappear, let them disappear. But just stay seated in meditation posture. And we're just going to hear an enactment of the next part of the sutra. And Ruchira Ketu goes to see the Buddha, and he relates his dream to the Buddha.
One night, when I was not tired, I fell asleep and saw a gleaming drum with a golden light everywhere. Shining like the sun, it beamed everywhere. It glowed in the 10 directions. I saw Buddhas everywhere. They were sitting on jeweled trees and on beryl seats. At the head of an assembly of numerous hundreds of thousands, I saw one in the form of a Brahmin beating the drum, and while it was being struck, by him these verses came forth. By the excellent drum of golden light, let the woes in the 1,000 world be suppressed, the woes in the evil states, the woes in the world of Yama, and the woes of poverty here in the threefold world. And by this resounding of the sound of the drum, may all troubles in the world be suppressed, may beings be without fear, free of fear, just as great sages are without fear, fearless. Just as the great sages who know all in the cycle of existence are endowed with all the noble virtues, so may people be oceans of virtues, endowed with the virtues of meditation and the 7 factors of enlightenment. And by this resounding of the sound of the drum, may all beings possess the voice of Brahma. May they touch the best enlightenment Buddhahood. May they turn the pure wheel of the law. May they remain for inconceivable eons. May they preach the law for the welfare of the world. May they destroy impurities, annihilate woes, suppress passion, likewise hatred and folly. May those who dwell in an evil state, their limbs alight with blazing fire, hear the sound of the drum. May they take up the refrain, homage be to the Buddha.
Thank you. Thanks, Suryanaka, and thanks, Akasha Mitra. I just really wondered how you found that, partly because you're smiling so much.
That was amazing. I really felt like I was like in it. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is what happens next. So Richiro Keito has his meditation, and in his sort of deep meditation, the Buddhas appear, all beings are cured of affliction, and his problem goes away, yeah? And then he falls asleep, yeah? So one night when he was not tired, he had this dream about a drum, and this drum issued forth verses, yeah? And we heard the very, very first part of it. So in the break, in the online tea break, Serena and I were talking to people online, and one of the questions that I asked was, what is your relationship to dreams? And I invited people to write in the chat. So this is a question that I want to put to all of you as well. What is your relationship to dreams? And something that you can reflect on. So I sort of started off this sort of little exploration of the Sutra of Golden Light by saying that I think we rather overprivilege rational consciousness, and this other bit I want to say is I think we also overprivileged waking consciousness. Yeah. I guess the Buddhist conception of consciousness is that it's much vaster, deeper, more mysterious, and waking consciousness is only one part of it. There are sort of different levels of consciousness other than waking consciousness, and dream consciousness might be even deeper or higher than our waking consciousness. It's not always the case. Serena and I were talking a little bit about anxiety dreams, and I'm sure we've all had them. And I was just saying that one of my anxiety dreams that I used to have when I was teaching here at the London Buddhist Center. I used to teach yoga here at the Buddhist Center, and one of my anxiety dreams was that I would teach in a U-shaped room. I don't know if you. He's teaching yoga in a U-shaped room. I would end up running from one end of the U to the other. And this is this dream that I had over and over again. It's quite architectural, sort of dream. I would run from one end of the U to the other. But also, I've also had sort of much more significant dreams than my anxiety dreams. Very, very close to ordination, I had quite a lot of violent dreams, very, very violent dreams. I think, in some ways you could sort of say that it was to do with spiritual death, but I think also it was just sort of, anyway, you don't need to sit here and me talking about my dreams, but maybe I'll just say the one dream that I wanted to tell you all about was quite recently. I had a dream about my old boss. So I had a very, very favorite boss when I was working in the corporate world, and it was a long relationship over, I don't know, about 7 or 8 years. It didn't always work for him, but this was somebody who I think was a bit of a boon companion to me. He was very, he benefited me a lot. He really sort of took me under his wing, taught me a lot, and by working for him, I really, really grew as a person and also advanced my career. So somebody who was very good to me. And in my dream, so I left the corporate world, left working for him, and in my dream, I kind of ran into him. I ran into him at some kind of networking event, and he said, "Hey, we should go for a coffee." And I said, yeah, I would like to go for a coffee, but only if you promise not to try to convince me to come back to work in the industry. And that was quite a significant dream for me. So I have been working for our Buddhist movement for about 6 years by then. But I had always kept hold of my corporate wardrobe. So I had this whole wardrobe of suits and sort of like quite expensive dresses and high heels that I just never wore. And after I had that dream, I realized that I don't need to hang on to those clothes anymore. I can just sort of give them away. So I felt like there was something in my dream life that I don't know, was willing to let go. There's a part of me that was willing to let go. And it needed to do that before I could actually do that in real life, if you see what I mean. So I also wanted to say something about dream and dreamlike, and the way we talk about dreams in Buddhism. So if you study Buddhism for any amount of time, I think quite soon you'll come across this notion that all experiences are like dreams. Yeah, all experiences are like dreams. And I want to say that actually, when we hear that, very, very often, what we read into that is that nothing is real. Yeah. But actually, from the Buddhist tradition point of view, that isn't what it's trying to say. When you read all experiences are dreamlike, what it's not trying to say that it's not real. What it's trying to say is that it's marvelous, it's magical, anything can happen, and that's the nature of experience. Yeah, that it transcends sort of mundane consciousness. It transcends our rational mind. And also that a little bit like what we've been talking about, dreams can have an effect even if it doesn't have a physical component. So you wake up from a nightmare, that will be like a physiological effect. If you wake up from a happy dream, that will also have an effect on your mind. At the same time, all experiences are dreamlike in that they don't really have substance. Whatever, even your most sort of significant experience to date, if you sort of examine it in your mind now, examine it in your memory now, they are sort of like dreams. Yeah. On my last solitary retreat, I was getting into a right state about something. I was so angry. I was really, really annoyed about a certain situation that had happened in my life, and I was just getting really, really wound up. And I sit in meditation, winding myself up more and more and more, and just sort of like thinking about the injustice of it all and how I had like been cornered into this situation, blah, blah, blah. And I was on this 2-week retreat, and this was right at the start of it. And one day I was going for a walk, and it was quite an interesting thing happened to me. There were these barking deer, and I don't know if you've ever come across barking deer, but they're really loud, and they're really quite scary. Sort of like shock you out of your whatever sort of proliferation that's going on in your mind. Anyway, these deer, I sort of startled them, and then they barked at me and startled me back. And I found myself sort of shocked out of my sort of irritable proliferation. And then I started, for some reason at that point, I started reflecting on my ordination, and I realized that my ordination, despite it being the most significant experience in my life, it did actually feel like a dream, like in the sense that it had this dream-like quality. And that was the most significant experience in my life. And somehow it put my irritation, my anger into perspective. It's like, why do I take it so seriously? my irritation, my justification, my righteous indignation. In a couple of weeks, in a couple of months, it will just be like a dream. Yeah? Okay. Let's just check how I'm doing for time. Okay, good. Yeah, so I think these things, don't take my word for it. Examine them in your own experience. Examine the nature of your memories. Examine the nature of past experience. And see if you can really, really sort of taste what it's like for you. The last sort of point I wanted to bring up was that after Ruchiraketu pays homage to all the Buddhas, he then embarks on, well, not him, like the drum embarks on these very, very beautiful verses, just praising the Buddha. It pays, the drum pays salutation and homage to all the Buddhas. And then it then talks about going for refuge. Yeah, it then talks about going for refuge. It talks about bowing down to all the Buddhas. It talks about saving all sentient beings, and it talks about actually becoming a Buddha. So Sangharakshita says that going for refuge is the central act of a Buddhist life. Yeah? The central act of the Buddhist life is going for refuge. I don't know what you guys make of that. What do you make of that? Why is the central act of a Buddhist life going for refuge? And who do you go for refuge to? What do you go for refuge to?
If you don't go to refuge, then your entire practice is singular and you're not exploring the ability to connect. And isn't that the whole point?
Mm-hmm. Well, what would you connect to?
To others, to what's come before you, to all the things we talked about when we were meditating just now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That you're not creating this from nothing, you're not creating these realizations alone. It exists.
Yeah.
You're finding it.
Yeah. So you're rediscovering something and you're connected to others. Yeah. So you're rediscovering something precious and you're connected to others. Yeah. Good. Yeah, come on, Peter.
Maybe before we go to refuge, to the three jewels in Sri Ratna, right? That's what, or maybe in all Buddhism is that's the going for refuge. But I think before that happens, we're always going for refuge to other things like materialism. That's our kind of refuge, and it sort of doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I suppose it's the most important moment in life or act, because it's that kind of shift towards reality rather than non-reality.
Yeah. So I guess we're sort of unconsciously relying on things that are not worthy of relying on. I don't know, maybe I'm just paraphrasing quite a bit, but yeah, we're always sort of searching for things to hang on to, and most of those things disappoint. I don't know, maybe you can sort of think about the things that you use as crutches, all the way from chocolate biscuits to sex and drugs, or some of us hold on to our youth, some of us hold on to our beauty, some of us hold on to our careers, children, parents. Yeah, we're doing it all the time. I suppose going for refuge too, something a little bit more reliable. Yeah, or even ultimately reliable. Thank you. Anyone else?
I just want to maybe follow up on what you said there about going for refuge in yourself being the most reliable thing, because thinking of everything outside you is impermanent, and attachment, if we can practice that, not becoming attached to transient things and instead going inwards, then we'll hopefully always have that, no matter the state of your body or your health or what's going on outside of you. But I think what you said about it being the sort of primary aim or principle in Buddhism really sits with me. I think it's such a powerful concept. I think Thich Nhat Hanh?
Thich Nhat Hanh.
Thank you. He talked about that island of self and just going home to yourself. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so not going for refuge to things that are impermanent. Yeah. Good, yeah. That's really, really interesting. Thank you all. I in my own reflection, I was thinking mainly that it's an action, that it's not like you don't sort of become a Buddhist by just believing. You become the Buddhist life has to be enacted. It's practical. We go for refuge. So it's not about adopting a dogma or a creed. It's actually about practice. It's not theoretical. One of the ways one of my teachers talks about it is that it's an adventure. Going for refuge is an adventure. So one of the corollaries of this is that I just really think retreats are a misnomer. Like, we don't retreat on retreat. We sort of advance. We advance into the sort of the jungle, the unknown territory, the forest of our minds. So I just thought I'd recite the Going for Refuge verses from the Sutra of Golden Light Puja. So you might just want to close your eyes for a moment. And these are sort of devotional verses. So, going for refuge. With my head I bow down to all the Buddhas. Now and forever I go for refuge to all the Buddhas. I will worship the Buddhas in all directions. I will deliver from all woe all beings throughout space. I will establish in the 10th stage all the inconceivably many beings. May they then become Tathagatas. I will follow the Bodhisattva career for millions of aeons, for the sake of every single being, until everyone is delivered from the ocean of woe. I will make shine the Buddha qualities. I will cross over the ocean of existence, and I will fill the flood of the Buddha sea, the deep ocean of virtue and omniscience, with inconceivable Buddha qualities. May I become an excellent Buddha, with hundreds and thousands of samadhis, with inconceivable mantras, and all powers and virtues of supreme enlightenment. So I really, really love that verse. In fact, I recite it almost every morning in place of the refuges and precepts. Partly because it's in English, and I just really like the sound of the words. And sometimes I kind of recite it David White style, where I repeat certain lines, the lines that sort of appear a bit more relevant at that point. But basically, I feel in those verses that there are three sections. The first is just bowing. With my head I bow down to all the Buddhas. Now and forever I go for refuge to all the Buddhas. I just really like that, the now and forever I go for refuge to all the Buddhas. and doing it in a way of obeisance. Don't know what your relationship with bowing is, but I often think of bowing as an act of just saying, I don't know, I don't have the answers, please teach me, I want to learn, something like that. And then it goes on to say, I will deliver from all woe, all beings throughout space. And following the Bodhisattva career, which is the career of trying to deliver to enlightenment all living beings. And then in the third phase, and I think this is actually the most important bit, may I become an excellent Buddha with hundreds and thousands of samadhis. Samadhis are meditations. With inconceivable mantras and all powers and virtues of supreme enlightenment. And for me, I think this is the real sort of koan, the real sort of problem in my life. You sort of like started with Ruchira Ketu, really trying to think about this problem that he had. But I would say that this is the real sort of puzzle in my life is, do I really believe that I can become an excellent Buddha? I don't know what about you, like whether or not you think in this life you can become an excellent Buddha. In a way, I could sort of say quite glibly, yeah, I definitely believe enlightenment for everyone, including me. But I think if I really, really, really believe that with every bit of my body, every bit of my being, I'd probably live my life quite differently as well, On the surface level, I sort of think yes, but how deeply do I actually believe that? Maybe, I don't know if you dare expose yourself, but how many of us, you can just sort of like put up your hand, how many, or maybe you could like put up a range, so you can put your hand up here if you definitely think that Buddhahood is a reality in this lifetime. Or you could like put your hand down if you're not, you're definitely not sure, but maybe you're somewhere on the scale. Yeah? Okay. Well, that's quite interesting, isn't it? It is quite interesting. Okay. Good. Anyway, I think these verses, this bowing down, paying obeisance, really trying to establish all beings in the 10th stage, the 10th Bodhisattva Bhumi, and then really ourselves becoming excellent Buddha. See, I think this is the heart of the Bodhisattva dream. This is the heart of the Bodhisattva Nisha. It's creating a pure land, a land where all beings grow towards enlightenment naturally. All beings grow to our full potential naturally. Sort of right here, right now. That, I think, is the sort of, the true Bodhisattva dream. So, on that note, we're just going to draw this evening to a close. I think maybe we've got 3 minutes, but I just want to finish again with a little meditation. So again, you might want to start with a sense of spaciousness. Vast open space, all of us practicing together. The lineage of teachers. You might want to recollect your efforts in trying to alleviate suffering for yourself and other people. All the good deeds done by you. And all the good deeds done by all of us collectively. And by our good acts, may we all grow towards Buddhahood. Go well into the night and have beautiful dreams.